5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
This is the Culture Clash.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey, welcome everybody to the latest episode of Culture Clash here on the Fandom Podcast Network. I got a little special opening for everybody tonight. Nobody knows about this, not even the other people on the show, but I want to introduce myself. My name is Kyle, Prince of Podcasting and defender of the secrets of the Fandom Podcast Network. And with me, of course, is my loyal friend and co-founder, Mr. Kevin Reitzel.
What's going on? I'm sorry, I'm not back in the studios in Santa Barbara right now, but I am down under, and it is Saturday for me right now. So I got a little tip on what's happening.
Yeah, well, you are time traveling, but I to continue my story, one day I held aloft my magic microphone and said, "By the power of podcasting," and I turned into the mighty Kyle Pod, voice of the universe. And Kevin, my loyal friend, turned into the mighty Battle Cat. There's nothing I could do there for. But only
was that a He-Man reference? Is that what that was?
We're giving some He-Man love out here because we did.
All right,
images of He-Man live action coming on Netflix, but only a few truly know our secret. And one of those people is the Queen of Movie Foo, the one and only Lacey Adderhold.
Lacey, what is up? I want to give a shout out to my daughter Camille. She's there in the chat saying hi. What's up?
Hello.
It is up, Camille. Now, of course, the other people who know our secret, of course, is the Lethal Mullet himself, Adam O'Brien, and of course, Orko, because Orko knows all. So,
and hi, Tara. She's in the chat as well. Yay! Hello.
We have got all kinds of people here. We got Ken Crawley Jr. joining us. Thank you, Ken. We always appreciate the support you give us. We love having you come into the comments. We got a very fun show tonight. We're doing a little something different here because we're in our main segment. We're going to have a conversation because the question is Hollywood out of original ideas? We've got a lot of live action remakes, a lot of sequels, a lot of big franchise films, but we're not seeing a lot of maybe originality from Hollywood. We're going to talk about that, but we got a lot of other fun things that we're going to get to first. And let's get things started the right way here because we do some fun things. And of course, you got to get the right slides up because you are watching Culture Clash on the Fandom Podcast Network. And, we appreciate your support as always, whether you're watching here live on YouTube right now, or if you are listening to the audio version of this. And Lacey, you're getting some love from the audience.
Hello.
I know Ken is a huge Arrowverse fan. So
nice, very cool. I think that they did a lot with diversity. That they kind of started a movement, and I think that the CW is really good about making sure that everyone is visible, and I like that.
Ken says Lacey, was nice to show some love for the Arrowverse a few shows back. Love those shows.
Absolutely. And of course, too, if you want more information on the Fandom Podcast Network, if you're watching on YouTube, scan that QR code on your screen. Is it working, Kevin?
Oh, it's still working. Still working.
Okay, it will take you to our homepage at fpnet.podbean.com, where you can find the links to all of our audio podcasts going back to the dawn of the Fandom Podcast Network. So
cool. You
can hear us when we were just young, youthful podcasters.
See? Right there. Look, I did the QR code right there. Show that.
There you go. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, spoiler alert, because, we're going to talk about a few things. It might spoil a few things. So just to keep Kevin happy. He loves the button. What can I say, ladies and gentlemen? Camille chiming in again. This just reminded me, since Kevin and I were thinking about another Camille Corner, I could give you my take on the Hobbit films, too. You said Camille was watching those now, Kevin.
Yeah, she thanks to Lacey. Lacey hooked her up. She watched all of the Hobbit films, and she'll probably take on Lord of the Rings later. But yeah, she had a great time watching those, so she's got thoughts.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely get to those down the line here. But of course, we got all kinds of stuff here on Culture Clash. We got our Let's News segment, and of course, we have our fandom news and reviews, and we got a packed one for you this week. So stick around because Buy It, Stream It, or See It's going to give you a lot of reviews of things that have come out within the last 2 weeks. But before all of that, we want to tell you what else is happening around the Fandom Podcast Network because there's some fun stuff going on. And we're kicking it off this time with Time Warp. We are covering the movies of 1990. Most recently, we have had April and May come out. And then we just put out June, which Kevin, you and Lacey headed up. June was a huge month for movies in 1990. A lot of big titles that month, Kevin.
Yeah, Time Warp 1990. 1990s. Everything as of this recording is celebrating its 35th anniversary.
Yeah.
And summer movie season was coming in strong with Total Recall, RoboCop 2, Days of Thunder, Dick Tracy, Another 48 Hours, cult hit Frankenhooker, a bunch of other films too, and TV as well.
Yeah, big year and big June for in 1990s. A lot of classics on there. I love me some Days of Thunder. What can I say? Young Nicole Kidman. Sorry.
By the way, if you're watching the video, hit the like button. We appreciate the likes.
Yeah. Like, subscribe, join us. We appreciate all of it. Share it to your friends. We love it. And of course, we're having some fun with Couch Potato Theater this summer as we're doing our very special 1980s Canon Films retrospective. No films recognize the true elegance of the 80s, quite like Canon Films, Kevin.
Yeah, for those that didn't live through the 80s action films, if you were doing it when it was happening, you were part of a special time in fandom. And Canon Films really excelled at making B-level but fun action films. And some of them were kind of pushing A little bit, but not quite. Some were a little bit C or D. But one of our favorites was the ones that we just recorded, actually, was American Ninja 1 and 2. It just got released. And it was a great time for watching action films, also on home video as well. In Canon Films, we get a special tickle on our nostalgia when we revisit those.
Gotta love that logo, Lacey. But we're not done with it yet because we just recorded and it'll be coming out very soon. Lacey's pick for the Canon Films retrospective, the Chuck Norris Lou Gossett joint Firewalker. Lacey, I know you had a ton of fun with us on that show.
Yes. Who doesn't love some good Chuck and Lou? Come on.
Oh yeah, exactly. And Kevin, we've done it before, but we're remashing it mainly because there's a very special edition of this film about to come out, the Sylvester Stallone classic Cobra.
Yeah, I just finished the notes on this and the slideshow. That one's ready to go, but we're going to pull the trigger on this when the new 4K release comes out. I think it's Arrow Films releasing in around the middle of July. And I've pre-ordered mine, so I'm waiting to get mine. We're going to do this as soon as that one comes in. And, there's this rumored rare work print that's been out there. I've never seen it, but it's not included on that release. But what is included in that release is the televised version that included scenes that were cut out of the original theatrical cut, so it could fit into like a 2-hour movie slot. So that print is on this one as well as the original theatrical release. And we'll go into the reasons for that later. But I'm excited to talk about Cobra.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And today, this morning, late last night on YouTube and on the audio feeds, every once in a while, we let Kevin and Aaron kind of do the first couple of the Fandom Podcast Network show. And they did a doozy that was a lot of fun. I had a great time editing this podcast and getting it out there, but you guys went back to the 70s. You may have brought a bud with you, I don't know, but you were dazed and confused.
Yeah, they often say that the reason why Seinfeld was such a good series is because it was a show about nothing. Well, this movie was pretty much a show without nothing. There really isn't a plot. And that's what makes this movie awesome. And it takes place in one day and one evening. And it is one of the most rewatchable films. It has one of the most fantastic soundtracks. And Aaron and I decided we're going to do something different with this one. Instead of just talking about our favorite scenes, and what we did was we mentioned each of the songs in this film and the scene and the music that accompanies the scene, because each of the songs pretty much tells what's happening in that scene, and we have a fun time doing that. So make sure you check it out. This is one that Aaron and I had to do for ourselves, and it's a fun listen and a fun watch. Check it out on YouTube and also download it. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I wonder just how much fun they had. I got some questions for you guys off mic, but And just one final reminder too, we do have our June Time Warp Pop Culture. It was a great show, lots of big movies there. But guys, we are here with Culture Clash Live, episode 280. Is Hollywood out of original ideas? We're gonna have an interesting conversation about that. But before we do anything else, guys, there's some things happening out there. So
Let's news.
yeah, that's right, Camille. I'm hooked on a feeling right now.
Camille and I had a lot of fun singing to that soundtrack of Guardians of the Galaxy in the car.
Well, guys, we do have some news here, and some of it is kind of breaking. It broke last night, and I find this very interesting because Denis Villeneuve has been brought in to be the director of the next James Bond film at Amazon MGM. He will direct the next James Bond film, as revealed. Tanya LaPointe is signing on as an executive producer. Here's the interesting thing, guys. We have a director. We still have no Bond. What's going on here, Kevin?
Yeah, they are going a little bit different with this, but I think they want to get a well-known director as a name first, and then just kind of then go through the casting process. I'm assuming they've already gone through it and they have some people that are on the short list. Aaron and I were actually having a discussion about who we want, but I'm apprehensive about this announcement. I love Denny. But I think visually he's going to do well with this film, but I don't want it to get too villainy on this, if you know what I mean. He did Tenet, right?
Mm-mm.
No, that's Christopher Nolan.
That's Nolan. All
right, so he's done all of the Dune films, and he did what was it? The Alien movie with what was it called? He did The Arrival, right? Yeah, okay. And the only thing and he also did Blade Runner 2024, right?
2049.
Or 2049, right? Is that what he did? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was trying to go back and try to remember the films that he did. I want him to edit the film a little better. They're kind of long, So yeah, Lacey's got thoughts about this.
I have so many thoughts. Okay, I was not a fan of The Arrival. I was not a fan of Blade Runner 2029, 40, whatever, the second one. I didn't even bother because I didn't like the original Blade Runner. That's a whole different story. But the only thing that brought me to Dune, because I didn't like the original Dune, was the fact that he managed to put Timothée Chalamet, Jason Momoa, and Josh Brolin in a film together. And I was like, okay, that's a cast I can watch, right? And so the thing about Denis Villeneuve, he likes to use a lot of the same actors. He has his little cast of characters, right? Well, the Broccolis Barbara has been fairly vocal that they want to stick with someone who's not American. So that knocks out a few people in Denis' cast of, creatures. But what I'm thinking is they're going to end up going, he's kind of Chalamet obsessed right now. And Chalamet is he's, I think 29, 30, 31. So he's right in that like sweet spot to start a Bond franchise. But if they do that, I think they're going to end up going back to like the Brosnan kind of, or maybe the I don't know, maybe even the James.
I can see like a Timothy Dalton style, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I just, because he's obviously well trained and he's skilled and he learns the fights, and he's obviously shown his chops with learning the fights and everything. So I think he's someone who could do it, and I think he's definitely into the fashion and the sleek, smooth style and that kind of thing.
I don't see Timothy.
But I don't know. I just don't know about him as Bond. I love him. I love all of his choices, but I don't see him picking up a huge franchise because that's,
I know. I don't. They're going to try and stick with someone who is not American.
I don't know.
And they've done that in the past, and I think that they know that it's important that someone has to be somewhat, part from the country or from the era,
Yeah.
I think it's interesting with Denny though, because I think with him as the director, there's a chance that we could have a complete unknown as Bond. I think he's willing to take a chance like that.
Well, I don't mean to be ageist here, but we need someone that can start off with a young Bond and get in like about 5 or 6 films.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of our favorites over the last 15 years have aged themselves. I'm sorry. There's a lot of names out there, but there's a lot of younger ones that you need someone that's right around between 25 and 30. Maybe 30 is the sweet spot, because I wouldn't mind getting a younger Bond in his early days of being a 00. We got a flashback, of course, with Daniel Craig of what he had to go through to do that. But I would love to see the beginning of Bond, not someone who's already, you know, been around for a while. And I would love to kind of see that. That's just me personally.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting. I think he'll definitely, the visuals will be good. I don't see him going like a Brosnan route, because I don't see him going that over the top crazy with the action, but maybe like a Dalton style, or bring in his own new style. I'm kind of partial. I've been a huge fan of the Daniel Craig run of James Bond. It's probably he might be my favorite Bond, and Casino Royale is still one of my all-time favorite Bond films. So it's going to be interesting to see what plays out. I think that's the next big thing, though, is now that we have a director, we need to find out who our next Bond is going to be.
And Craig brought a nice grit to it. I mean, it went back to kind of the hand-to-hand and that kind of thing. It kind of the 60s and 70s were very tongue-in-cheek.
It brought it back down to earth. It really brought it back down to earth, and not the over-the-topness that we had with some of the Bond films. But guys, another piece of news that dropped, and this is something I'm not surprised about, but I am surprised about in a certain aspect. It has been confirmed that John Barenthal will be joining the cast of Spider-Man Brand New Day, returning as the Punisher in this new Spider-Man film. I'm very excited about this. There's a great history between Spider-Man and the Punisher. I wonder if this is going to reflect some of the things that have been happening in Daredevil Born Again with the Kingpin and what might be going on with that. But Spider-Man, they try to keep those PG-13 and for kids. And let's be honest, Barenthal as the Punisher has been very R-rated here, guys. So this is going to be interesting. I love the fact that they're doing this connection, Kevin.
I think the connection is good. I hope that they don't water down Barenthal's performance too much. I mean, they're going to obviously try to go for the PG-13 rating, because all Spider-Man movies do that way and kids want to see it. But I'm very curious. I could see storyline-wise that these two bumping heads right away, especially on how they deal with bad guys. And I think that's something that needs to be there. I think too that, like we had in the last Spider-Man film, is Spider-Man needs to come, not saying darker per se, but we really need to kind of, well, hold on, I'm not necessarily cheer up. I'm talking about like actually getting a little bit darker than, you know, what we saw in the last film where Aunt May passed away, you know.
You misheard me, Kevin. I said mature.
Oh, mature up. Yes, definitely. Yeah, I think that Spider-Man, Peter needs to grow up a little bit, become a little more hardened, and really see him dealing with, like, am I dealing with these villains the right way? We've got this guy who's willing to off them and kill them. You know, that would be a really cool dichotomy. I don't want them to get too kiddie with this. He needs to grow up with the rest of us.
Lacey.
I mean, I think they really are. I mean, let's face it, the end of the last film was about as dark as you can get for Spider-Man. He's lost everything. No one knows him. I'm sure we're going to find out about a couple of caveats that they planned, you know.
The thing is, though, I just want to let you know, is that I felt like he was overshadowed a little bit by the wonderful inclusion of all the other Spider-Mans that came in, or the other Spider-Mans that came in, because that's, and the other villains that kind of came in like that. Yes, it ended in a kind of a darker tone, but I would like to see that kind of carry through more. Right.
So, but what I was saying, though, was that when it ended in such a dark way where he's lost everyone and he could have gone in to that shop and like taken and you know, he checked in and she didn't recognize him and whatever. I think that he's starting from a place where he's basically a blank canvas. He has no one. So I don't think that it's beyond the realm that he might kind of fall off the happy wagon for a little bit, and then maybe he sees Punisher and what he has become and realizes that he doesn't want to become that.
Yeah, there you go.
That maybe pushes him, pulls him kind of back into the positive thing. I mean, there's a million different ways to look at it, but I think that I think that it's going to be a rough first 30 minutes of the next film. The next film, the first 30 minutes is just going to be difficult.
Yeah.
Well, just real quick, Lacey, because you bring up a point that I have been telling people for a while since that movie came out, and I think it's kind of gone unnoticed by a lot of people, or that a lot of people aren't talking about it. Marvel very sneakily reset everything about Spider-Man so they could get him back to what Spider-Man is supposed to be. Because by the end of that third film, he's got all the Stark gadgets, he's got all this stuff. Spider-Man is supposed to be hard on his luck, always broke. The old Parker luck, as they call it in the comic books, nothing ever goes right for Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
So I think that's where they're headed with that. So I'm looking forward to that. Kevin, I think Camille just chimed in again.
Yeah, Camille brought up a good point here. Says, I might have seen a movie with Spider-Man once or clips, and I agree. He seems a lot younger and almost more playful, which can be okay for a hero, but not to a point to where it doesn't reflect their trauma.
And I think that's one of the things. Spidey has always been very quippy, but a lot of that quippiness, I think, is covering up things that he is going through. So,
which is another reason why I loved Iron Man 3, because we saw the trauma that Tony had to go through with the events of the Avengers. You saw that, so it's great.
And I just want to throw this out quickly to make us all feel really old. Yesterday was Tobey Maguire's 50th birthday.
Yeah.
Exactly. But guys, that kind of wraps up our news segment. So let's transition into the heart of the show. Okay, guys, main topic of the show today is Hollywood out of original ideas. We are in an era where a lot of our big movies are movies that are live action remakes of very popular animated films. Of course, too, we have the large studio franchises out there as well, and those seem to be dominating things in the theater. But one of the reasons why I thought of this topic too is because we did have a movie recently come out that was something original, not out of a franchise or anything like that, that has done very well in the theater. It was Dinner. His original story, and I'm going to give him a ton of credit. He has said he's not going to do a sequel. Shot story, not want to expand the universe. He told his story, and he's good with it. But guys, I want to have a discussion about this topic. And Lacey, you had something you wanted to interject.
I'm gonna go with what I think you said because I couldn't hear you very well.
Yeah, you're cutting out, Kyle.
Okay.
Yes. So we're talking about basically the concept that everything these days is a remake or a sequel or a reboot, or there's not a lot of new stuff coming out. Nothing that kind of shocks you.
There's not a surprising, there's not those things. Sinners is something feels original about Sinners, obviously, even though it's a vampire film, but it still felt original compared to, like I said, it's live action remakes, it's franchises, it's sequels. I mean, Mission Impossible, all of this. So, and it really feels like we were kind of stuck in this rut a little bit. We're not getting too many original films. And I'm kind of curious from each of you guys too. Are you feeling that way about, especially what's coming to the theaters? It might be a little different. We're going to talk about the streaming aspect of this, but it's about what's coming to the theaters. Lacey, what do you think? What do you think of the current status of things? Right
I'll go. Okay. I think that a lot of this started with blockbusters, just, early, mid 70s, early 80s, after, look, you had all the black and whites and everything, and you ended up with New Hollywood, everything was very gritty, very real, very new. Right. You had a lot of Easy Rider, you had a lot of Dennis Hoppers and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, kind of like that gritty new realism stuff. And I think that when Jaws came out, I believe it was Jaws that was the first quote unquote blockbuster, right?
Correct.
And if you're watching me, I used my air quotes. But I think that when that happened, because that happened, all of a sudden studios were like, oh, ooh. And so they banked on 3 or 4 or 5 directors that they knew, and they all knew each other. You got your Spielbergs and your Lucases and all their, and basically their friends. You had some Scorsese, a little bit of, anyway. And I think that your top 6 or 7 studio directors ended up getting all of the money because the studios were banking on these huge like tentpole films. And I think that when that happened, in the 80s, we were still talking about people using film. Not everyone had a camera in their pocket. Not everybody could like afford a red camera for $1,000 to go out and make their own movies in their backyard. If you were making movies in your backyard, you were using 16 millimeter film, like J.J. Abrams and Quentin Tarantino. You were doing like little, projects with your friends. And so as you grew up and went through film school, that culture became the auteur kind of theory, right? So you have your Quentin Tarantinos and your Kevin Smiths and your like James Gunn, Danny Boyle, like those guys, right? And now, because films have become so expensive to make, I think a lot of studios are basically like, if we can't find something to really grab the audience, we're just going to stick with what we know works. Because we know that even bad movies get sequels, and it's even if everyone hates it, the first one made a ton of money because everybody went to see it, and they'll make a sequel to that movie just because it made money, not even though the reviews weren't great. So I do think that it's hard to find new movies, new ideas. And I think a lot of directors are basically doing like, okay, well, I'll do one big movie for you if you let me do my little pet project. And that's kind of what, people like Luca Guadagnino, Denis Villeneuve, like a lot of these directors are saying, okay, I know you want me to direct this ginormous film, like, I don't know, Guadagnino did Suspiria. It was like a random remake of Suspiria so that he could do some of his smaller films. He did right after that, he did a movie about cannibalism. So
who are you talking about?
Luca Guadagnino.
Which director?
Luca Guadagnino.
Okay.
He did Call Me by Your Name, lots of, A Bigger Splash. Anyway, I think that a lot of it boils down to money. And I think that's a sad way to decide what movies get made, because I think a lot of people have really good ideas and they're not being given the choice or the option or the opportunity they could be getting. I mean, the most recent film I think that I've seen that just really blew me away with how completely unusual it was might have been 2010 with Bunraku. Like, that was a really cool movie. And it was one of those things where I was going to see a movie day, 5 movies, and there was one movie that fit the slot. And I was like, all right, I'll go see that. And I literally cut the next movie out and went and saw it a second time because I was just like, what did I just watch? That was amazing. I think it's a little bit easier with comedies because you get a lot of like random stuff in comedies now. But when it comes to real, either drama or action, or it's hard to find something that is a new idea.
And you have some good points there, but Lacey and Kevin, I want your thoughts on this. Where do you feel we stand right now with this?
Well, as Lacey alluded to, it's all about money. And believe it or not, the studios that release these films, they want your money and they want to make a profit. And that is basically the backbone, unfortunately, of the movie industry. There's a lot of wonderful creative people out there that some do get the chance, something happens and they get lucky and their movie breaks. And there's a lot of other creatives out there that don't get that break. And they resort to either doing stuff low budget and doing it themselves. And, Lacey's right. The first real jackpot, or I guess blockbuster was Jaws, and it's celebrating its 50th anniversary, by the way. And, then, Star Wars comes in and, as Lacey alluded to, we get this wonderful blockbuster era of people waiting around the line because they're breaking the blocks, which is why that was called a blockbuster. People went around the block. And we were lucky enough to live through that time and wait wait for long times and hanging out with people and getting tickets and stuff. And so it kind of became an event. And that's one of the things, while I'll always continue going to the movie theaters, is because I love the movie theater experience, even if I'm the only one in it, which is unfortunately is happening a lot as of now, because COVID hurt the movie industry a lot for obvious reasons, but also, and streaming did as well, for trying to get people into the theaters. So the blockbuster type thing has been struggling, and we've had some recent successes, like Deadpool and Wolverine, and of course we got another Jurassic Park movie coming out. We got Ghostbusters returning, and these of course are all movies that are part of something that's already been established, and they know that this is a way to hopefully get people back into the theaters, but also to give them something that's familiar with and yet make a buck out of this. Now I see the game and I play the game, and it's not like I'm not going to go see a blockbuster movie because I can't see this independent film I'm interested in. If I want to see the independent film, I'm going to go see it. If it's playing in the theater, I'm going to go see it in the theater. The theater for me is one of the best experiences of watching these films, and especially when it comes to the new sound that we're getting now, and especially in IMAX. A lot of people like to go to IMAX because of the big screen, and especially if they throw in a 3D there. That is great. I love the IMAX. To me, I love the sound. I've gotten really kind of attached to having a good sound system in my theater. And we got Camille here saying it's always a shame when something special turns into cash cow rather than having an initial spark. It turns into a game of how far it can be stretched. That's a good point there, Camille. It really is. And there's a double-edged sword there, because you also want to, as a movie goer spending the money on these things, you want to spend money on stuff you feel comfortable with, that you think you might go enjoy the film. And I talked to some people recently, especially at work, and one of them said something to me saying, I don't want to go because I don't want to spend all this money and then walk out disappointed. And for me, that's part of the experience, is going and sitting in the theater, whether or not I like the movie or not, and then talking about it. But I don't know if I would take my movie experience back or ask for my money back. But there's money. It's so expensive to go to the movie theaters right now. I did a double feature yesterday. I'll talk about in a second. And I spent $20 on one ticket and 19 on the other. And that's here in Australia, and that's before any concessions and stuff like that. So that's another thing that has hurt the movie industry as well. So the safe bet is to go with these cash cows that Camille just brought up, the ones that will bring people in. Either way, I'm going to go to the theater and do it. But I do like it, though, when we see a fresh movie that comes out with some cool ideas and some entertaining takes on stuff that we haven't seen, But I will be honest with you. I am all for a good remake if they, not necessarily they have to do it. I don't like it when they do it like shot for shot. But if they bring something new to the idea, something that's interesting, even though I'm familiar with the story, that's why I go to the sequels. Like, I will keep seeing Fast and Furious movies. As silly as they get, I will keep going because I am entertained. But if you're going to do a remake of some, like, for example, a lot of Highlander fans are like, there should only be one. You should never make the original Highlander. Well, there's a lot that Highlander mythos has told us that can be retold in a good way. And I've seen a lot of crappy remakes. It's like it brought nothing to the table, But then I look at what Dredd did compared to the Stallone film in the 90s and how that did so well for me and entertained me. So as long as you can bring something new to the remake in your own little style or whatever it is that makes it still entertaining with a familiar thing that I love chomping on, by all means, keep it going.
I think what's interesting, when I thought about this topic, I was going through my own head of what's changed. And I think even in the 80s, we got the big blockbusters and we got sequels, but there was a wait between them. It was 4 or 5 years before we got the next Star Wars film. Or
made you hungry.
Yeah. And we weren't going into, outside of like Friday the 13th and the horror movie genre, we weren't going into 8, 9, 10 films on these things. And you even look at the 90s. The 90s were kind of a decade of a lot of independent films, a lot more independent films. Then the 2000s roll around, and I look through what happened in the 2000s up until now, and I think there's a few different things. And the first thing that comes to mind is Marvel Studios. Marvel the Marvel experience changed movie going because they were the first ones to truly, I think, pull off a massively connected universe. At Star Wars, we had 6 films by that point. What Marvel did with over almost 20 plus films in this phase 1 and the whole Infinite Saga, they captured a genie in a bottle. The problem is, and this is one of the problems in Hollywood, it's a copycat town. And everybody decided they needed a connected universe. And then you add in the fact that Disney owns too much. Let's be honest. Disney owns Marvel. They own Lucasfilm. They own Fox. They own so much.
ESPN.
And, yeah. But the problem is Disney made a decision at that point. Well, all of our big things are going to follow the Marvel formula. It's going to work. We're these big connected universes. And it doesn't work for everything. Marvel caught lightning in a bottle. And if you look at since the end of the Infinity Saga, Marvel has struggled to find that magic elixir again. And they probably never will to that point. I also look at the advent of streaming. And this ties into both COVID and the writer's strike. Because streaming was going, and it was growing at a nice pace and kind of finding its lane. Then COVID hit. And everybody jumped on to get their content on streamers because they still wanted to get it out and try to make money. And the pandemic changed people's mindset about going to the theater. It's like, why should I go to the theater when I can watch it in the comfort of home, save some money? And then as the studio started getting things out faster and faster, day and date release like Dune and Black Widow, people got a little spoiled. Then you throw in, okay, we're just coming out of the pandemic. Movies are starting to roll again. Writer's strike. All this stuff gets pushed back. The movies we're getting just now are stuff that was delayed because of the writer's strike. So people kind of got a little disgusted. And I think in the aspect of it too, I think there is an aspect of franchise fatigue. I think people are tired of having to go, I have to go watch these 5 movies so I understand the entire plot of something overarching. And because of finances, like you said, Kevin, the cost of going to movies, yes, we have things like the Regal Crown Club and AMC Stubs, but still, for a family of 4 to go to the movies, you're looking at dropping probably $150 by the time it's all said and done. That's in today's day and age, that's not affordable for a lot of people.
And that's
also
snacks.
And also, the short time a movie goes to the theater and then hits on streaming, people would just rather wait and do it that way.
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing. We don't get movies that stay in the theater for six months like we used to. Lacey.
Well, I think so. Yes, streaming was going its way before the pandemic, but I think that the fact that Hollywood became so scared immediately that they were going to start losing money, right? So they started making these deals with Amazon and Netflix and Hulu, whatever, to do same day releases, all those kind of things. And so when you can either go buy a $22 movie ticket at the theater, or your whole family can watch a movie for $26 at home. And let's face it, when the first round of stimulus checks came through, I know a lot of people who invested in home theater systems because they didn't want to be they were, everyone's stuck at home. And, you can't do it, and so if the government's going to subsidize you and help you, kind of stay at home and, as long as they had groceries, they bought a big TV so they could not be crazy at home.
Going to interrupt you just real quick. The Lethal Malt himself, Adam O'Brien, has joined us in the chat. Welcome to the show, Adam.
What's up, Adam?
And you bring up a great point, and I think we really got conditioned to that. And because the TVs now are so much more affordable and larger and bigger and a better screen, I think that's part of it too. But I think too, one of the things that's happened here, guys, and I'm real curious to see what your thought is on this, because of now the streamers being so much competition for theaters and buying up films, and the streamers tend to take more of a chance. Now Netflix obviously has had deals with big superstars, Brad Pitt, Will Smith, things like that. But one of the streamers I want to talk about is Apple. Apple is the first streamer to have an Academy Award-winning film that they bought and put out and distributed. And I think what's happening here is that while the big theaters and the big studios aren't willing to spend the money on a risk. They're staying safe. You're seeing these streamers buying up these more independent films and taking a little bit more of a risk because they also want the content, and they're finding gems. And people are like, well, again, I have an Academy Award-winning film that I can watch right here on my Apple subscription for free. I mean, as part of my subscription. And a perfect movie, I'll say that, a movie that should have been in theaters was The Gorge. That was a movie designed to be in movie theaters.
And Prey.
Prey is another one. Now, Prey is a little different because it was around the pandemic time, so I get that. But The Gorge, there is no excuse for The Gorge not to have been picked up by a studio. It had star power. It had a great story. That should have been in theaters. And instead it went to Apple, and it's one of the most popular streaming movies of the year so far and has done phenomenal for Apple. So I think that's changing too because you have more competition to buy movies, and some of these independent films realize they could probably get on more eyes going to a streamer than they could going to a theater. But Lacey, you wanted to interject?
Yeah, I find it to be an interesting paradox and slightly ironic that when the studios during the pandemic started selling to the streamers, that the solution that they found would eventually become their downfall. Because the solution they found was to utilize the streamers to make sure that their product got out there because they couldn't use the theater. And now they're having to maneuver that direction and stay that direction because Apple and Amazon and Disney, that also owns, Hulu, those are $1 billion companies. They can go and buy anything they want. I mean, they can, they don't care. They can spend a little bit of money and not worry about it. But a studio, one bad movie, one bad decision can break a movie studio these days.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Adam chimes in. They're out of ideas 100%. It's just a lot easier doing pre-existing franchises that's got a built-in audience. And I think, and hence why Warhammer, when it drops, will be a huge change. We'll see. Warhammer is kind of one of those things that's a pretty well-known franchise, though, with people. We'll see with that. But I think that's, Lacey, you hit on a thing, and Kevin, I want your thoughts on this too, because I think it boils down to one big thing too right now. Hollywood is afraid to take a risk.
Yep.
Very, very much. It's hard to take a risk unless you're banking on a big movie star or you're touching on or using something already pre-existing that has a built-in audience that Adam was referring to. And when you're talking about Apple too, and I'm going to bring up F1 later with Brad Pitt, that's an Apple film. So, but I'm glad that they released that in the theater. And I think when you have someone like Brad Pitt, you're going to release it in the theater. Although there was the movie Wolves that he did with Clooney that went straight to streaming.
Wolves. Yeah.
Wolves, right. Yeah. I mean, it might have gotten one screen somewhere, but would I've seen that in the theater? Probably. But it's a weird fine line on that if these streamers are going to be, like, for example, Amazon now owns Bond and also is going to be, are we going to be able to watch the new Highlander reboot in the theater, or is it going to go straight to Amazon? I'm a little bummed if I can't see it in the theater, So
well,
it's these things that I would like to say to the streamers, if they're listening and watching, show it in the theater for a while. Yes, go ahead and showcase it on your streamer as well, but let people find it in the theaters as well and enjoy that experience.
And let us buy it on physical media afterwards.
Thank you, Lacey. Yes, please.
I get there are so many movies that I have, I'll find out one of my favorite actors is in it, or there was a film that I was part of a Kickstarter for called Code 8. Right? It's some
Stephen Amell.
It was great. It was fantastic. And then at the premiere that they did, because that was one of the perks, right? I went to the premiere in Dallas, and they were like, and this is great. We're already in talks to do a sequel, and it's going to be awesome, and we're thinking about doing it. And they ended up doing it on Netflix. And my first thought was, okay, so I have the Blu-ray for the first one. I'm not going to get a Blu-ray for the second one because Netflix doesn't do that. And that's annoying. I like with Disney, they're not putting out their shows. They're not putting out all of them anyway. So I'm ending up having to buy Asian copies or, aftermarket stuff from wherever. And
me too.
Most of them are real, are licensed copies just from other countries. But every once in a while, I'll get one in the mail and be like, oh, this is super janky. This is not even close to being a real release, you know? And if they would just put it out, I would pay them, you know, $20.
Well,
to get the movie.
and that brings up a point here, and I'm going to bring this particular slide back up here, guys, because I want to talk about Sinners, because Sinners outside of The Gorge might be one of the most fairly original films I've seen this year. And here's the thing about Sinners, and I think this is the reason why it gets made. You have a powerful director in Ryan Coogler. You have a powerful star in Michael B. Jordan. Mm-hmm. They have the clout to say, this is our project. This is what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. They don't even have to necessarily make that studio deal at this point. And look what Sinners has done in the box office. It's for the budget and what it's made. The studio's in love. They want more Sinners, of course, and Coogler has said no. But I think this is an example of where directors and stars in Hollywood maybe need to take a little bit of a stance and use their own power to say, I'm going to do my project. I'm not going to tie it into, oh, I got to do a Marvel, I got to do a superhero movie before you'll let me do my project. Mm-hmm. Because I think they have a little bit more power to be able to do that. And I think it needs to happen a little more often. I think the biggest thing with it is that because you don't have as many studios. You either have these low budget studios or you have the Disney complex and really, I mean, honestly, it's the Disney complex. You have Sony, you have Sony Pictures, you have a few other out there, but it's so easy for these smaller films to get swallowed up. They have to be something special. But when you have like a Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan, those kind of people are going to pull people into a film, not just because of, oh, it's a franchise, because it's like, hey, these guys have never done me wrong. And I think that's a very important thing. And I think that's something that needs to start happening. And I'm curious to think, you guys think that is one of the possible cures for this issue? Kevin, I want you to answer this one first.
Yes. It touches on Ryan Coogler has power and well-deserved power. He's proven that he can work with a great ensemble cast. He knows how to, do the blockbuster hit. But what was great about Sinners is that it hits a certain niche. There is some comparisons to some other like vampire. What was it?
Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, Dusk Till Dawn. There's some comparisons to that, but to where it feels like it's 2-part movie from what happens from the beginning to the end. But what it really does though is that it's really good writing and character development, and that's what I think studio movies, when they push these other big blockbuster things or reboots, whenever, they forget that you could bring stuff out that people spent money on before, but you still got to write a good script. You still got to have a good cast, and you got to let some of that cast cook. And what's really interesting about Sinners is that the other supporting cast are phenomenal, and they have great moments. They have great lines, and everyone shines in that film, and that's what makes a good movie and a good cast, and what makes Sinners really good. And that's what you have to do with these films now, is make sure that they cook. And we've seen some stuff on Disney Plus and in the theaters when it comes to the MCU and in Star Wars. Well, stuff is not written well, and fans are calling you out on it, and we know what's crap and what's not. And you can't just, paint something over of something we've previously liked and give us a different version and think that we're going to take it and not be quiet about it, So you really have to, if you're going to try to push this in front of us and ask us to devour it, if you want it to live in its legacy, you got to make a good product and make it available for physical media, like Lisa said.
Well, and also I think it does serve to be mentioned that now Hollywood is starting to say, okay, well, a lot of the folks that have run out of ideas are a very specific person. We're now starting to see a lot of directors and actors and star vehicles for African American, LGBT, female directors. Not everything is heterosexual, cisgendered white males. When I'm not trying to get political or whatever, but I think that when you run out of ideas, you got to talk to people who have other ideas. Yeah. Every culture has their stories, and they're not all the same. So expanding your point of view and your worldview is something that Hollywood has almost been forced to do because they've run out of ideas, and they need new and fresh ideas. And I think that I don't want it to sound like it's that's the only reason that these groups of people are being recognized, but I think that it's a huge thing. We need more people. We need more points of view. Like, the world needs to see things from other people's point of view. That's just what we need to do right now. There's too many wars right now. We need everybody to pay attention, and everybody gets to tell their stories.
Okay, so before we close out the segment 2, I want to flip it a little bit because, it's not that we're bashing blockbusters, because we all love the summer blockbuster.
Oh yeah,
and the summer blockbuster is hugely important right now because it does feel like people are starting to get back to the movies a little bit. The popcorn bucket thing has helped. And speaking of popcorn buckets, Lacey, we're going to talk about something with that real quick, but this is a huge July blockbuster summer. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we've had one of those truly in several years. But when you look at this July, you have Jurassic Park, you have Superman, you have Fantastic Four. There's a few other things sprinkled into there. And we need those blockbusters to be good, not just average. They need to be good. And especially when I think you look at the 2 comic book movies that are coming in, both Superman and Fantastic Four, you can feel it. People are excited, but there's a lot of nervous energy with those 2 films too, because people aren't quite sure what to expect. Marvel's track record has been very bouncy. Thunderbolts was a great film. I thoroughly enjoyed it. We'll see with Fantastic Four. And we know the kind of up and down history of Superman films. But I think we have to realize, too, what an important place the theaters are in right now. And they do need these blockbuster films to get people back into the theater. And if we can start getting people back into the theater, and the truth of the matter is, let's be honest with you, I think box office takes are so bloated and out of whack because of the Marvel phenomenon and all those billion-dollar films. That wasn't realistic that was going to step. But if we can start getting movies that are making profit, that are making, between 500,000 to 750,000 when they come out, I think we're going to see the studios.
Do you mean million?
Yeah, million. Yeah, sorry, million. Yeah. Sorry. But I think we'll start seeing the studios again willing to take a little bit of a risk on some things. So I think we're kind of in that interesting dichotomy of that. And I'm just kind of curious, Lacey, as far as like this big blockbuster month coming in, do you think this is one of the more important summer blockbuster months we've had in a while?
Yes, but I would also like to say that when you think about the fact that the 3 main ones that we've got coming up are Jurassic Park and then Marvel and DC, it's interesting to note that all of those started as a different type of physical media franchise, comic books and the Michael Crichton novels. And so you think about it, these aren't even original ideas. Like, even the first movies of these weren't original ideas. These were 50-year-old movies, 50-year-old ideas, 50-year-old stories when they started being told, as far as the comics are concerned. And then with Michael Crichton, I think Jurassic Park was probably 15 years old when they first made that one. The novel was probably 15 years old when they made that film. So I think it's interesting to note that while we have these big blockbusters coming up, these aren't even movie blockbusters. These are, movie franchises. They're adapted franchises. So that's an interesting point of view as well.
Kevin, what do you think? Is this one of the bigger blockbuster summers? Is this a pretty important July for theaters, especially?
Yeah. This upcoming month of July is huge. The movies that you guys just stated is coming out. It's kind of reminding when we talk about Time Warp of all the big movies that we've loved for so many years, and how some of them have just come back right at either they released the same weekend together, or they're like right over the next weekend, and how they endured in theaters for so long. And I think that's going to be an interesting question too, is how long will Jurassic Park, Fantastic Four, and Superman stay in the theater? That's a big deal because, most of the money is made opening weekend, it seems like nowadays. And that has been a trend for a long time, especially I think more in the 90s, really, where then you started hearing about the second week drop off and like, oh, does that mean the movie sucks? Or it's like, I was going to wait till next week to see it, so there's that type of thing that's in the air as well. But from what I've seen from the trailers of Superman and from Fantastic Four, I feel like we have a good product on hand. Jurassic Park, I haven't really heard much about. It just seems more of the same to me, but I'm very curious about it. But Lacey, you have something there. I was wondering if you could bring to the table because you have not seen Jurassic Park yet. But
the lovely folks over at the theater that I regularly attend, they got not one, not two, but three of these super fancy popcorn buckets, and I got one of them, and I'm very excited. Is the Jurassic Park drink and popcorn bucket. Let me take the little battery thing out. Here we go.
If you can describe it to the audio people, that would be really cool.
Okay, so basically it is an incubator where the middle of it has a removable embryo of I'm pretty sure, I don't know what kind of dinosaur.
Yeah, I think it's one of the mixed dinosaurs that's supposed to be in the new Jurassic Park film.
So the embryo comes out. So you put your popcorn where the embryo would go. It's also a little light up. And it's got the little engine symbol and everything like that.
That's pretty cool. The
other half of it has a push button release for the drink, which is the engine logo. It looks like one of the locker bunkers.
Right.
So yeah. And there we go. And it comes with a straw that I have accidentally taped to my table somehow. So I'm not going to try and get that off there right now, but straw goes in the little thing and you get your drink and your popcorn at the same spot. And I love the light up feature. I think that's pretty cool.
That's one of the better popcorn buckets I've seen of these.
Yeah. This is a fair rival to the Alien pod bucket, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And, I'm a fan of these popcorn buckets because it appeals to collectors. It gets people into the theater to see the film as well. And yes, I know they're limited and they're hard to find and they're very expensive on the secondary market. But to me, it also creates another memory to build on top of your theater going experience, which I love.
And it also gives it makes money for the theaters because, the films, the way it's structured, the cash influx, the first weekend, the studio makes all the money and then it goes on a 80-20, then goes, kind of down to and so if something's not in the theater for more than 6 weeks, the theater itself is really not making much money.
Yeah, that's someone who used to work at a theater told me, yes, I'm not in the movie industry, I'm in the restaurant industry. And that's where they make the money off that's why, that's why it's so much, the food's so expensive because that's how they're making their money. Yep. And I like that is a way it does support the theater itself and it keeps it going. So I think it's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. You need to hide that though, because Camille's apparently ready to come steal it from you.
I got my kung fu.
And apparently 7-Eleven has some cool Jurassic Park Slurpee straws and cups too. So keep your eyes out for that.
Thanks for the heads up on it, Tara.
So guys, as we get ready to close out this segment then, from our conversation, I kind of get a feeling it's not so much that we feel Hollywood is out of original ideas, but Hollywood is being moneyed out of exploring original ideas.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's more the financial side affecting more independent ideas from really making the big jump. And that's why we're seeing a lot of them go to streamers or other routes, YouTube, things like that.
I guarantee if you talk to people within the industry that have all these scripts lying around and a lot of talented people, there's some really great original ideas out there that just aren't being explored. Right, Lacey?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I have several, but it's one of those things where I think that people are really just hoping at this point for kind of my Big Fat Greek Wedding. Right. My Big Fat Greek Wedding was a weekend hit. Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson went and saw it. And it was like a tiny little festival film. Right. And it was playing in like 2 theaters or something. And they saw it and they were like, this is the funniest thing we've seen in forever, where we want to do something with it. So Playtone Films picked it up and it became like this giant, hit. And now there's, 2 sequels and a television show and all this other stuff. And I think it's one of those things with these new little tiny ideas, you got to have that one person who sees it that goes, I want to put money behind it.
Yeah. And then they want to squeeze every piece of juice they can out of it. So it's been a great discussion, guys. Thank you so much for taking part of it. But you know what? We've been talking about what's happening in Hollywood. Let's talk about a few things that we've seen from in Hollywood. Buy it, stream it, or unsee it. That's right, guys. It's time for a little buy it, stream it, or unsee it. Our review section here on Culture Clash. If you like when you saw the movie and you liked enough, you're going to be buying it, whether it's on digital or rare physical media anymore, or you're going to stream it. Maybe that's your only option, but you liked it enough to where it's like, yeah, you know, watch this, you know, stream it. Or it was so terrible, you just want to forget that your eyeballs even were looking at it, so you unsee it. And we've got a big section of it for you today. Spoiler alert, we're talking about a lot of movies this week that have been out in the last week or two. We know a lot of people are on summer vacation and maybe we're going to try to keep the spoiler levels low here on these films, but just a little bit of a warning. And of course, too, we love our friends at Letterboxd. And guys, from everything you've seen for this past week, I'm thinking the Letterboxd numbers have gone up quite a bit, Mr. Reitzel.
I've been busy here in Australia. My wife and I have seen some stuff together, and I've been watching stuff as well. Even to staying up till 10:30 last night watching dodgeball with my wife and her mother-in-law. So, yeah, I'm currently at 226 films that I've seen since January 1st, 2025.
And Queen of Movie Foo, where are you?
I'm at 202 films and 20 seasons of television.
Nice. Are you keeping track of those on Serialized? Because I've been keeping track of my TV on Serialized.
I am keeping track of them on a list on my phone.
Nice. Very cool.
So 20 seasons of television, you just basically rewatch Supernatural.
No, I usually do that every January. I usually start January with all 15 seasons. It's 321 episodes of television in 31 days, and I usually do that. But this year I took a break because I was going to start doing my movie count. So I skipped it this year, but I think I'm going to be jumping on that probably around July.
Yeah. Camille's asking if we're going to touch on 28 years. I promise.
Yes, we are.
So let's get things started here. And actually, we're going to kick things off with something I've seen. These guys have been on vacation, have had some free time. I've been working still, and I did watch the first 3 episodes of Ironheart. Now, we are going to have an Ironheart special on our True Believers show, but I just wanted to throw this out here because I was very skeptical of this show. I wasn't sure. This felt like something they were going to just kind of throw away. And they still, in ways, it still feels like they are because they dropped 3 episodes this past week. They're dropping the other 3, and that's it. And I have to say, I was so pleasantly surprised by this show. I love the music in it. The acting is great. I am a huge Anthony Ramos fan. For a lot of you might have seen him in Twisters. Of course, he was part of the original cast of Hamilton as well on Broadway. This show was just a lot of fun, and I really like the characters. Alden Ehrenreich is in this, Kevin. I did not know Alden Ehrenreich was in this.
I have seen the first 3 episodes as well, Kyle.
So that excited me as well. Again, we're going to do a True Believers on this show after it's completely aired and give you our thoughts on the whole season. But I just want to say right now, it is definitely a stream it. And if you were a little skeptical of Ironheart, go watch it. That's just my thought on it. Kevin, real quick, did you enjoy what you saw of Ironheart?
I did. I especially when it got to the 3rd episode and there was a really cool reveal that I liked, and I thought that was a neat touch to the story. I'm enjoying the characters in this as well and the setting of it, and it's kept me engaged. I'll just say that.
There we go. We're not going to go any deeper into Ironheart. I just want to get that out there. Watch for our True Beliefs special sometime probably in later July. We'll be going full in depth on Ironheart. But let's talk about the movies. And guys, one of the big movies of this summer so far has been, believe it or not, a live action remake. But one that I have heard, I have not got a chance to see this. Time has gotten away from me. But I have heard a lot of people are considering this the best animation to live action remake film possibly made. And that is How to Train Your Dragon. Kevin, you've seen this, correct?
Yeah. Yes. I'll let Lacey go first, though, because, I'll let Lacey go first on this.
Okay. I love this movie, the original. I love the animated. I have both sequels and the Christmas thing, and I've got the 3 seasons of the TV show. I love the dragons, right? And that's great. I I do think there's a couple of things that maybe were okay in the animated version that might not really kind of blend into the current time and when this movie's released. I think that oh gosh, I can't remember. It's not Fish Legs. What's Snotlout? Right, Snotlout. His whole thing is that he's after he's obsessed with what's her name with Astrid, and so there's a lot of kind of not innuendos, but like not taking no for an answer, not taking the hint, which is not really, it doesn't really translate when you see a live action guy doing it, as opposed to like a funny haha cartoon character where she can like push him down and it's fine. That's the only complaint I have for this movie. Everything else I loved. The scene, the hand, like, that's the one scene that I was worried about, and it's just sweet and fun, and Gerard Butler's amazing. It's fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and I was so happy to see oh my gosh, I'm gonna butcher his name. The kid from Wolverine, from Deadpool 2.
Julian Dennison, who plays Fish. Plays Fish Legs.
Fish Legs, and he's so adorable. I love the fact that, this kid has some serious range when you look at the difference between his characters in those two movies. And I think he's going to do really well for himself. I really much enjoyed all of the kids that they cast. I did find it odd that there were no blonde Vikings, which is something that you kind of expect is blonde. I do love the fact that they went inclusive and did the whole concept that, which is true, that when Vikings would pillage, they wouldn't murder, they would just envelop a society and take all their people, and those people became Vikings, and they would kind of continue. And so they kind of have a very mishmash of all the different cultures that kind of goes with them. And I think that was a really cool thing to do. So
it's a buy it for you, Lacey?
It is a buy it for me. Yeah.
Mr. Reitzel.
It's a buy it for me. I just going to give a shout out to Camille. She says, you all can't get too carried away with How to Train Your Dragon without the original Dragon Queen. That's her, by the way, because she is. We need to get a Camille corner going. So maybe we'll have to do a Couch Potato Theater with How to Train Your Dragon, the original film, and get Camille on there. So Camille and I, we shared these movies and TV shows together. So there's a special moment in our fandom with these. And so going into this film, I know Camille was very apprehensive, and I was too, to be perfectly honest with you. And, but we had a discussion about it, and I said, well, let's just go in with an open mind and see how well they do. And I thought they did a pretty darn good job. Visually, it was fantastic. The thing they had to kind of put on the back burner a little bit is a little bit of the development with the friends and the names of their dragons and stuff like that, because we got to see a lot more of that explored with the animated sequels. But I think they spent more time on Hiccup and Toothless, and I thought that was a good thing to do, especially with their bond. And I was really afraid that they weren't going to nail Toothless. You have to get Toothless right, especially with what we've seen from the animated movies, and the TV series was fantastic. And Camille and I watched those over and over again, and we thoroughly enjoyed that. And Camille knows her stuff when it comes to the dragons, and so I was really curious to kind of get her feeling on that. And I don't want to speak for her, but she did enjoy it, but there were some things that did kind of bug her about it, about character development, scenes that were from the original animated film. They could have done a little bit better and stuff like that. But overall, she really didn't enjoy her theater experience, and I'll have her talk about that in person another time. But I like the casting. I thought the casting is great. I'm glad that Gerard Butler was back as Stoic. I like Nick Frost, but I had to take a while for me to get used to his Gobber, because I was used to, was it Craig Ferguson that did the voice of Gobber? And I'm like, why didn't he just come back and be Gobber as the live action version? I thought that would have been great. But overall, I thought the casting was fine. I was a little worried about how they kind of aged up the characters, where they weren't very young. But I think it was fine for them to be a little bit older in the situation that they were. And I felt that it was a good tribute to the original film. A sequel has already been greenlit, which I'm happy about, because this movie is making money as far as I know. But also it'd be fun to see these guys in another character, especially if you've seen the original film. The question is up in the air about Hiccup's mother.
Well, I'm looking forward to going to see this. This film is making big time bank at the box office. So yeah, they got a whole new franchise on there. But guess what, guys? Our next film is another animation to live action, Lilo and Stitch, the other big one. And I've heard some things. I have not seen this, but I know you guys have. Lacey, this is one you were excited about too. So I want your thoughts on Lilo and Stitch.
I loved it. It was super cute. A lot of people are hating on it, and I'm just like, how? Look, so cute. I gotta say, it's been a long time since I've seen the original. I deliberately did not watch the animated one before I went and saw this, specifically because people told me they had mentioned that there had been some changes that they weren't happy about, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go into it, easy. I'm not gonna watch the original and then go into it nitpicking. I'm gonna go into it and watch it because it's a fun thing to watch. I think a lot of what we have struggles with, especially with Disney doing all of their films, doing remakes of all of their animated films, live action. I think that a lot of people are expecting either word for word or shot for shot. And I think the audience is smarter now than they were. And and this is just bagging on me. Like, I'm smarter now than I was, when I saw The Little Mermaid the first time, or when I saw Cinderella the first time, whatever. And because the audiences are smarter now, they have to do some things to change things up to make it a little bit more up to date. Some people love that. Some people do not. I'm a big fan of whatever it takes to tell the story, make it your own. That's great. The only thing that kind of bums me out is when some movies, not this one, but some movies have a tendency to add like one song so that they'll be eligible for the original song category for the Oscars. Like, that's just pandering and like crappy. But other than that, remake all of them. I love all of them. The Cinderella is my new the live action Cinderella is my favorite Cinderella. Love it. With Lily Collins. Collins?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, they're just delightful. So there's a million ways to tell Cinderella. There's a million ways to tell Lilo and Stitch. I will watch them all.
So it's a buy it for Lacey.
Yes.
Mr. Reitzel.
I saw Lilo and Stitch as well. I saw the original years ago. I have not rewatched it. I know there's a lot of hardcore fans for that original film, and I thought it was a fun family film. I think it talks about family values, and I think that's important as well. And it was just fun to see some actors I wasn't expecting to be in it, like Zach Galifianakis is Jumba, who's one of the aliens that is masquerading as human. And the standout for me, though, was Billy Magnuson, who played Peaky. He's the kind of more goofy version. And I just saw Billy Magnuson in one of me and my wife's favorite recent comedies, Game Night. With you guys ever see Game Night? It was hilarious.
Jesse Plemons. Oh.
Yeah, Jesse Plemons. Yeah, it's a really funny film. But anyway, I thought Lilo and Stitch was a lot of fun. It was cute, and the little girl Maya Keoha, really, really good as Lilo. She was great, and I hope they do a sequel. Tia Carrere's in it as well. So yeah.
And this is one of the few Disney films where it's not a princess in a castle, right?
Exactly.
It's an actual like working class story.
Yeah. And all shot in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. About 15 years ago, Stitch almost kicked Mickey out of his own castle.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Stitch is very funny, and it's nice to get that alien background in the beginning of this film. I just want to throw that at you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple of cool voices regarding that. So yeah, it's very cool.
Okay, guys. So buy it on Lilo and Stitch. Our next film, Pedro Pascal is everywhere. Another Pedro Pascal film is out, The Materialist, but not only is he in it, you have Chris Evans and Dakota Fanning. Lacey, I know you went and saw this at the theaters. What did you think?
I did. And interestingly enough, out of all the movies I've seen in the past like 3 weeks, this one had the most people in it. There were probably 15 people. That's the most people I've been in the theater with since Indiana Jones 5.
Star power.
Yeah, right. I really enjoyed the statement that this film made. It is not for everyone. It's very clear that this is a film about a dating expert, a matchmaker, and she boils people down to, looks, money, longevity, blah, 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 right? And it's boiled down to the reason that she started doing this is because she and her boyfriend of 5 years broke up because of money. And so when she started doing her thing, whatever, there's some dramatic things that happen. It's definitely not so much a comedy. It's more of a dramedy. Yep. I would definitely say that this is a buy it for me. I don't know. I mean, there's definitely some trigger warnings for like SA and things like that. So it conversationally, not visually. So if you have triggers in that area, I would not watch this film. But I think that what it says is necessary for some people to watch.
Kevin.
Yeah, I agree with that. I saw this in the theater as well just recently. Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I thought it was a rom-com, and it's not. It's a drama. It's a drama. Right. It's a straight-up drama. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Just, temper your expectations if you think it's a rom-com. But I thought there was a good messages in there, and I thought that the journey that Dakota Johnson's character of Lucy goes through is very interesting. When she measures herself and dealing with materialistic things, and a lot of people do break up over money, and that was very realistic and can hit home with certain people. Yep. And I'm just going to say that both Pedro, Chris, and Dakota were great, but the standout for me was Chris Evans in this. One of his most well acted and underrated acted roles in this for me. I don't know if I would buy it though. I would definitely wait for streaming. That's where I stand on it.
I have not seen it yet, so I feel like somebody in the room has to say this. At least this movie is not 50 Shades of the MCU.
The funny thing no, but wait, the thing is, there were a couple of times where I was like, this is very 50 Shades. There were a couple of scenes where I was like, it's very wealthy man versus a woman who maybe didn't grow up in quite so much of an area, like whatever. And there's a couple of shots where she's like walking down a hallway wearing like his shirt, and I'm just like, that's straight out of 50 Shades. Yeah. There's a couple of 50 Shades references that are very, very prominent. Yeah.
Okay, Lacey, last up for you. You cried hard.
I gotta tell you, I did not go to see this movie because of the women on the screen. Well, that's not entirely true. I love most of them. I went and saw this movie because I realized that Justin Hartley is in it. Sam Huntington is one of my very favorite actors. I adore this kid. I say kid, I'm old enough to still call him kid, whatever. And Stephen Dorff, who was born in the same hospital as me the day before me, so technically I can say we shared a room.
Should we give like a quick IMDb description on this?
Sure, you want to pull it?
Yeah. It says, so when a mercenary group takes a lavish wedding hostage, they have no idea what they are in for, as the maid of honor is actually a secret agent ready to rain hellfire upon anyone who would ruin her best friend's wedding.
Okay, so when we're just to kind of go with the theme, this is not a new story. Okay, there have been so many movies about finding out that your parents' next door neighbor, best friend, boyfriend, ex-boyfriend is a spy, right? Like I could name literally I could name a movie in every one of those categories right now. It's not a new storyline. It is, however, I think it's the first time it's been like really female centric. Other than The Spy Who Dumped Me, which had a lot of like, oh no, not as much spy stuff, but like running from spy stuff.
That was a funny movie.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely. I dug the fact that almost everyone in this movie has a potential for being one of the bad guys. And I pegged a couple of things along the way, but I did not pick the bad guy at first. And I thought it was somebody else, and I was like, oh, ooh, shock me. Okay, whatever. But yeah, so I love Anna Klumsky in this. She's so good. I've watched her since she was in My Girl, and she has become this powerhouse. She can do anything. She was fantastic in Covert Affairs. She's been in all these different kind of random roles, and she's really good. And in this, she plays not the Bridezilla, but the maid of honor Zilla, and it is hilarious. I love Divine. Is it Divine Joy Randolph? Right? Am I saying her name right? I always forget where the apostrophe is.
Divine.
Yeah. So she's fantastic. Love her. Got a couple of elder statesmen in there who are amazing.
But you're bearing the lead. It's basically a mini reunion for the Pitch Perfect people. You got Rebel Wilson and Anna Camp together in this film.
I love Anna Camp. She is awesome.
So final verdict then, Lacey, buy it, stream it, or unsee it.
It's up in the air. It's between stream it and buy it. I haven't decided yet. I'm kind of on the fence still. Because I will say it's about a 6 out of 10. The storylines were okay, but some of the special effects were a little bit like Sci-Fi Channel level for some of the big stuff. So maybe it's a stream it on this one. I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
Okay, well, let's get to some movies Kevin's seen, including one I do want to get to the theater to see, especially in IMAX because it was filmed for IMAX. You saw the new Brad Pitt movie, F1, or should we just call this Driven 2?
No. Yeah, I saw it at a very nice theater at Hoyt's Theater Chain here in Australia. They're a little more pricey theater chains, but it's worth it for the theater going experience. This is made to be seen on the big screen. Make sure you do if you can. And Brad Pitt is amazing in this. He looks great, and the story is one we've heard before, where it's an elderly mentor who comes out of retirement to team up with a younger driver and coach him and stuff like that. And they're at odds, of course, but that's not the story here. The story is Brad Pitt and the character and what his character has gone through. And I don't want to spoil the beginning of it, but you get a little backstory on his love for racing, and not just racing F1, but just racing in general. He loves the need for speed, so to speak. There's some great it's shot wonderfully, and what it does is that it takes you through the F1 circuit around the world, which is something that I'm not familiar with at all, but it does a great way of teaching the beginner of what this being part of a race group is like. And when it takes you to the next exotic country location, it shows you the name of the city, a beautiful shot of the city, and then what the shape of the racetrack is. And it's really cool in the way that it does that. And Brad Pitt is just amazing in this. He's gone through his lumps, his injuries, and the supporting cast with Javier Bardem as the guy who brings him back into the fold. They're old buddies. The young racer, Damson Idris, who plays Joshua Pierce, he's upcoming. I may have seen him in something, but he was really good in this. Carrie Condon, Irish actress, gets to speak her Irish normal accent. You've seen her in a bunch of stuff. She was great in this as well. And Tobias Menzies, Peter Banning, who you may remember from the TV series Outlander, which my wife turned me on to. He's in it as well. It's a good racing film, some fantastic racing scenes, but there's some good dramatic moments as well, especially with the technology that is brought to the world of racing and how things need to change as well and stuff like that. And I got more thoughts on it, but Lacey, you wanted to bring something up.
Yes. I just had my own little existential crisis. You said elderly, and I was about to be so taken aback that you were calling Brad Pitt elderly, and then I looked up his date of birth and I realized that he's going to be 62 this year.
Yeah.
And
yes,
technically that makes him a retiree, and I'm having a moment right now.
Well,
because,
a lot is made about his age in this film to humorous effect and dramatic effect.
Right? I mean, it's just, but the question I do have though, is it more drama or is it lighthearted? Is it racing action-y? Like what's the vibe?
A perfect blend of all of that.
Okay, cool.
Especially the relationship between him and his crew and different members of the crew and the press especially dealing with like press that wants to just jump down on everything that you do. Him and Javier Bardem's character, him and the young up-and-coming racer. There's all these little parts of it that make it entertaining. It's a 2.5-hour film, and I was worried about that going in there, but I did not go to the bathroom once. I stayed in there. I didn't look at my phone, and it was well done.
I have to say that he is 2 years older than Robert Duvall was in Days of Thunder.
Oh, and it's fun that you bring up Days of Thunder, because at the premiere of F1, Cole Trickle was in attendance, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice.
Let me just say this right now, guys. After watching this film and hearing rumblings about a Days of Thunder sequel, this is the crossover that we need right now. We need Cole Trickle and we need Sonny Hayes, the character in F1 that Brad Pitt plays, to somehow cross over. And I would love it that there be this worldwide race that goes on where you have to both do Formula One cars and stock cars, and then you race each other. And this was a really nice moment at one of the premieres where Tom Cruise comes up. He's supporting his friend, that they actually did go-kart racing while they weren't filming Interview with the Vampire, and they had a nice little fun time doing that. And I would love to see these two guys cross over into a mega racing film. This would be fun.
But here's the problem, Kevin, with the mega racing film. Steve McQueen would show up in his bullet Mustang and just blow them all away.
Well, you got to be alive. So, and I still think they've got some fun. I would just love to see these guys in the film together again.
So that's just going to be a remake of those those Magnificent Men in their flying machines and those Joyous Gentlemen in their jaunty jalopies.
Okay, here's a perfect example what F1 does. We've seen this type of film before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a plot that's been done before, but like I said in the beginning of this podcast, if you can bring some new flavor to the idea, if you can bring a good balance of the action and the drama and character development, you're going to get me. And you got me. This is a buy it for me. Nice. I'm going to get it on Blu-ray. I'll get the special features. I might go back in the theater and see it again. I'm only bummed that they didn't have a special popcorn bucket with an F1. And by the way, Kyle, they even brought the F1 circuit to Las Vegas and filmed some scenes there. And they got complete cooperation from the F1 circuit. And you can tell by watching this, because it takes you to all these exotic locations, like France and Dubai and Vegas, and F1 to Vegas is brand new.
Yeah. So and apparently a lot of the F1 drivers are actually in the film.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. I don't know them from Harry and Dean, but that's what I heard. But it's definitely a good summer movie. Right. See it in the theater, especially in a good theater.
Yeah. I'm seeing it on Monday, so I'm very excited.
Okay, well, let's have a little fun with our next film, because this is a sequel to a movie that kind of came out of nowhere and became a pop culture phenomenon. And so that film is Megan 2.0. Kevin, you saw this today.
Yesterday, actually. Yeah, it was.
Time travel. Sorry.
Yeah, it was the double feature with F1. Yeah, so I kept seeing the trailers for this. I didn't see the first one when it first came out, but my wife did. I said, do you want to watch Megan again? She's like, yeah, it was fun. So we ended up streaming it and watching it off of, I don't know if it was Amazon or something. And I actually was entertained by it. I like how there's a little futuristic kick to it when it comes to androids and, robotics and the big thing about AI right now. And of course, she kills some people in the first film. But the movie is kind of tame, if you want to call it, for a horror film. It was PG-13, so it wasn't too graphic. Megan and the actress that does her voice does it in a really cool, kind of creepy way. And so I was kind of curious, like, how are they going to do this in the sequel? Well, let me just tell you. Yeah, Kyle?
I just want to add, because you asked how they were going to do this in the sequel. If you've watched the trailers of this, it's very reminiscent of another big android robotic sequel from the early 1990s. At least that's how the trailer plays it off.
Well, do you want to say what that is, Kyle? Don't make us guess.
Terminator 2.
Okay. Well, so the first one plays off kind of more of a low budget, but kind of cool sci-fi horror, basically, because it does kind of take place maybe in the near future, but they don't really let you know. But the second one is a straight up action film, to be honest with you. And I got to tell you, I found it silly and fun. I'll be honest with you. I really did enjoy it. It wasn't, I mean, there was some people that there wasn't like a lot of hardcore deaths. A lot of people just got hit with stuff. So the violence was toned down to PG-13. And the character development, they got all the original cast back in, especially the young girl who's now a little bit older, and her aunt, who's this robotics like wizard. And the way they bring Megan back because of a larger threat, played by someone who people may be familiar with if you watched Ahsoka. They have to worry about this other super kind of robot that's on a killing spree for reasons, which you find out later. And that's played by Ivana Sakno, who played, she was, what was it? Shati, what was the, in Ahsoka, she was a young apprentice, dark apprentice to Ray Stevenson's film, or a character, I'm sorry, forgetting her name. Shin Hati, that's who it is, Shin Hati. And she was scary in this. There's the big message about this film is AI and the future of AI and robotics, and they really dive deep into that.
The future is now, Kevin. The future is now. Lacey.
So I had someone try and sell me on this movie at the theater, and I said, well, I haven't seen the first one. And the response was, she kind of gave me a little bit of information. And I said, so basically this is the robot version of Godzilla. In the first movie kills humans and he's bad. But in the second movie, when they have Mothra come up, we got to get him out so that he can fight the other bad guy. And they were like, yep, that's what it is. So
pretty much.
Yeah. So I still have not played it. I can't. The one thing I saw was her in the trailer. It was her like running on all fours, and I just not doing it. Nope. Absolutely
not as creepy as you would think. But what I do like is the main kid in this film, who's now like a young teenager. Mm-hmm. The bond that Megan and her have, and Megan kind of starts to become, well, different than she was in the first film.
Okay.
Gotcha. So buy it, stream it, or see it, Mr. Reitzel.
By the way, if you just, I'm going to say, if this is your thing, go see it. It was fun to see on the big screen. If you're not sure, or you're like, then go ahead and wait to stream it. I might get them both together, but I have a feeling there's going to be a third one. But I might purchase this later at another time, but I'm going to wait for streaming to see it again. And just a shout out to Jenna Davis, who plays the voice of Megan. She's also a singer. And there's a singing moment, which was a little awkward in this film. I'm just going to say that.
Okay, guys. Well, up next is a movie we've waited, not quite 28 years for, but a good while for, but it is 28 years later. Now, Kevin, I know that you watched the first two before you went and saw this. Tell us about 28 years later.
Well, I had seen the first two originally, but I hadn't seen them in a long time. So my wife and I watched them before we came back to Australia, and it was a good thing that we did that, to just kind of get a feel for it. And Danny Boyle returns as the director for 28 years later, and he directed the first one, and he returns for this one. And they've, just to let you know, they've already filmed. So this is supposed to be a 28 years trilogy, just so you know. So you can see where I'm going at with this. The second one's already been filmed and done. And this film actually surprised me. I liked it more than I thought that I would, just because of the setting and the describing what it's like in an apocalyptic area that's gone on for 28 years now. And for those of you that don't know, basically the island of the UK has been quarantined from the rest of the world because of this outbreak. And the rest of the world is somewhat going on normal, but we don't get a lot of tease to that, but we do a little bit. But what's interesting about is that it takes place basically on this little Scottish island that is away from the mainland, and you can only get to it during a certain type of the day because this road appears when the tide goes down. And every now and then people leave the island to, scourge for supplies and to kind of see how things are. And basically you see some pretty creepy stuff. You see, I'm just going to tell you right now, you see naked zombies. And you see the evolution of what happens to the zombies, or the I guess the rage virus that happened. But there's a lot of really cool character moments, especially with Aaron Taylor Johnson and the young boy who plays the kid. I'm trying to remember the kid's name here, but he was very good in it. And you get to see what happens when time goes by and stuff, what it can do to the planet, basically. But the ending is a big WTF moment, and you're wondering, like, what the hell? And I'm not going to spoil it here, but it gives you an idea of how, if you know your history about UK, which I did not until I saw a documentary about how some people will hero worship a certain somebody, maybe not knowing what they really did, or maybe they know what they did, and it adds to an extra creep factor for what they might showcase in the second film.
Now, Kevin, real quick, Camille has a question, and this is something we've had this discussion about many a time off mic here on the Fandom Podcast Network. Could you answer that for her?
Yeah, Camille says, I've never seen the films. Can the infected be killed by normal means like guns, or are they actual zombies that can't die? That's a great question. What we find out in this film is, in most zombie films, you can kill the zombie by shooting them in the head because it kills their brain function. In this film, though, there's a line that Aaron Taylor Johnson, I believe, says you can shoot him in the head or in the heart, because the heart keeps the blood flow going with, obviously, the virus and all that type of stuff. So yes, they can be killed. The most popular way to kill them is obviously beheading them or killing their brain, basically. So yeah, and there's some pretty graphic moments with that. I was entertained by it. I thought it was great. I like where the story's going. Danny Boyle is not directing the second one, but he is going to direct the third one if it gets greenlit. And there's rumors that what's his name that was in the first film? Cillian Murphy.
Cillian Murphy, yeah.
May return for this second sequel. We don't know that for sure, but he is the executive producer on the series so far, especially this first one of the trilogy.
So buy it, stream it, or see it, Kevin.
If you're a fan of this genre, it's a buy it. See it on the big screen. It was it's good, and I'm definitely going to buy it when it comes out on video because I have the first two on video. Lacey.
Okay, so the first two I've seen, they were not as scary as I thought they were going to be. The trailer for this one, which I was blindsided by, and I didn't realize it was going to happen, and I tried to keep my eyes closed, but I still heard it all, and it was terrifying. Seems like it's scarier than the original two. Is it more gore, more scary? Like, is it in comparison to the two?
There's some moments in two that are pretty creepy. That's the one with Jeremy Renner, after seeing them both, they each have their own creepiness factor, and there's a good what I like about these is there's character development with the main people. So if they survive, you're like, yay. If they die, you're like, oh. And so it's around the same, I think, basically. But there's a different, imagine what happens to zombies that had clothes 28 years ago. Are they going to still hang on there if they're still alive? No. So you're going to see a lot more naked zombies. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Camille had one last question about 28 years later, Kevin, if you could answer that for her, because she wanted to know if the Boots poem from the trailer ever gets incorporated in the film.
I think it does. I can't remember. I've only seen it once. I have to watch it again. I think so. Yeah. Remember correctly.
Okay.
So, yeah. But just do me a favor. If you're interested, the character Jimmy Sav, I think it is. I didn't know this guy existed. And so trigger warning. There's a very interesting documentary on Netflix about, I didn't know this guy was a thing because you had to be in the UK to know who this guy was. And he was hiding some deep, dark secrets, and they came out. And this is a person that should have spent a lot of time in jail. Unfortunately, he died before that ever had a chance. But there is reference to his likeness at the end of this film. So if you are a UK person, you know what I'm talking about, you'll get it. And I'm kind of curious what they're going to be doing for the sequel with this. So yeah.
Okay. Well, been a big episode for Buy It, Stream It, Unsee It, but we're not quite done yet. Kevin, you got one more film to talk about, Hulu's Summer of '69.
Yeah, Summer '69. I came across this by complete accident. I think it was on Disney Plus because Disney Plus here includes Hulu. So it was fun to check out. And I also checked it out because I'm a fan of the lead actress, Chloe Fineman, who is one of my favorite character actors on SNL right now, Saturday Night Live. And Summer '69 makes you think, oh, it's about the actual Summer '69. No. Basically, Abby, it takes place in current day. Abby is a sweet girl who seeks to impress her crush by learning a specific sexual position, enlists a stripper's help, that of Chloe Fineman's character. However, she realizes true self-discovery and a lasting friendship are more valuable. This is actually a very sweet film about someone who's discovering, what's like to become. Basically, she needs to be more outgoing and more comfortable with her body. And Chloe Fineman's character, who plays the stripper, needs money. And so it's kind of like a Can't Buy Me Love situation, but more updated. It's still very sweet. It is R for language. There is no nudity in this, so don't think you're going to get any nudity out of this. And as they become friends, it's very sweet. And, there's some current SNL alumni that's in this as well. I thoroughly enjoyed this film. It is actually a buy it for me. I really enjoyed the character development and the unlikely friendship that these two came together, and then what happens at the end.
Very good. Well, guys, that is going to take us out of Buy It, Stream It, or Unsee It, and let's get this show wrapped up. Okay, guys, you have been watching Culture Clash episode 280. Is Hollywood out of original ideas? Hopefully our discussion on that topic got you some thoughts and maybe gave you some ideas. Always feel free to leave comments here on the YouTube channel or on any of our posts on the Facebook pages as well. But speaking of which, there's a lot of different ways you can find the Fandom Podcast Network. Of course, one of those ways is Blue Sky. And of course, you can find us on Blue Sky at FanPod Network. We're having a lot of fun over there on Blue Sky. And of course, to scan that QR code on your screen. It'll take you to fpnet.podbean.com, the home of all of our audio versions of our shows. And of course, we are the Fandom Podcast Network, where we strive to feed your ears with some good podcasts. And of course, you can find us on Facebook, Fandom Podcast Network, and all the pages for all of our wonderful shows. You are on Instagram at Fandom Podcast Network. We're on X at FanPod Network. And as I mentioned before, Blue Sky at FanPod Network. Kevin, where can people find you on socials when you're not in the land down under?
You can find me at Spartan_Phoenix on X, Instagram, all the socials, basically, including Blue Sky. I'm at Spartan Phoenix.
And Lacey, you're just kind of floating around Letterboxd and maybe a little Discord these days?
Yeah. Lacy Pants. Woohoo. That's me.
And of course, you can find me, Kyle, on Facebook, all over the Fandom Podcast Network Facebook pages. You can find me on Instagram and on Threads at AKyleFandom. You can find me on X at AKyleW, and you can find me on Blue Sky at AKyleW. So many.
Just want to shout out to everyone that came in on the chat. I want to thank Camille. Thank you so much. I want to thank Tara Poole as well. I want to thank Adam. Everyone else in there. Kenny, thank you so much for coming. To appreciate you guys participating and checking us out on YouTube Live.
And of course, real quick too, TeePublic, our real great relationship with TeePublic. You want to find the gear of the Fandom Podcast Network like Kevin is sporting there. It's all at teepublic.com. Just search for the Fandom Podcast Network or the title of your favorite show on the network. We got the gear there. Kevin is rocking his AC/DC look because he's all back in black this week. But yeah, T-shirts, mugs, hats. They got it all over at TeePublic, and there's usually all kinds of sales going. 4th of July here in the U.S. is right around the corner. Probably going to have some good 4th of July sales going on there too. But guys, we appreciate you watching Culture Clash here on the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel or listening to it on one of the many podcast catchers. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on there, which include iTunes, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Podbean. So many great ones out there. We just appreciate you listening wherever you are. Again, this has been Culture Clash episode 280. Is Hollywood out of original ideas? I think we decided they weren't, but they need more money or something along those lines. I don't know. But it's been a blast. And as always, guys, most importantly, around each other, respect each other. And even more importantly, guys, enjoy your fandom. We have done this thing. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Lacey. And we are out of here.